fall of 2020, Dave told me C.L.E. invited us to go on a tour of their farm and factory in Danli, Honduras. I think Dave was taken a little aback when I immediately said, "Let's go." He had told me early in our relationship he had been to Nicaragua before, and what he had experienced sounded so cool. The same night, Dave pulled out his phone and texted our C.L.E. rep, Nook, and said to him, "We're in." Dave has enjoyed and loved cigars for over 30 years, and therefore has a vast knowledge about cigars. I, on the other hand, am a bit of a novice, but I'm insanely curious and always up for an adventure. So I was very excited about having this unique experience and very grateful for the opportunity. Besides just having a really cool trip, Dave and I were both motivated by the same goal. We wanted to witness every step that goes into making a cigar. We wanted to see the country, feel the climate, see the seed beds and the full plants. We wanted to see the process the leaves go through once they're removed from the stalks until they're rolled and boxed. We hope to pinpoint the magic that makes a cigar so special. And because we know very few people will ever get to experience this, we wanted to document as much as possible so that we could share it with others, especially our customers. So we hope you enjoy taking this journey with us, and we hope, like us, your favorite moments will be the unexpected ones. Our trip began when, after a whopping hour sleep, we got up at 3:30 a.m. We were at the airport park and ride by 4 a.m., so we had plenty of time to spare to catch our flight to Houston at 6 a.m. After a brief layover in Texas, we flew into the very new and very modern airport in Comayagua, approximately a 3.5-hour drive to our hotel in Danli. Beautiful. Once we got through security and customs, we only knew that we were supposed to meet at Cafe Americano. We were very relieved to see the familiar faces of C.L.E.'s Flavia Salzano-Scott and Raul Flores. We were also introduced to Rupert Miller, the new International Operations and Supply Chain Manager. This is where we greeted Mark and Sammy, the other Pittsburgh retailers on the trip. Finally, when the last group arrived, it was off to the hotel we went, after stopping for a brief lunch at a buffet-style restaurant. This was our first taste of local cuisine, and our first of many meals eaten together with our crew of approximately 20 people, made up of sales reps and retailers. Even though we were exhausted, there was no sleeping for me on the bus. I was dying to see the terrain, the mountains, and see how the people lived. I wanted to absorb it all. There were no bathroom stops along the way, but there was a very bumpy bathroom with no toilet paper available for the brave or the desperate. Finally, we pulled into our hotel, and the first to greet us off the bus was our host, Christian Eiroa. We were quickly given room keys, and as expected, our room was lovely. We freshened up briefly, and then everyone gathered in the common area. This area served as a sort of outdoor lobby and central gathering spot for the rest of the trip. That first beer and cigar tasted like heaven after our long journey, as did the delicious dinner served at the long table on the side of the hotel. We ate, surrounded by beautiful mountains on all sides. The next day, we would start with a delightful breakfast followed by a trip to the farm. Christian gave us a guided tour of the 600-plus acre Corojo farm in the Jamastran Valley. The valley features over 250 acres of beautiful tobacco plants and over 50 curing barns. Interestingly, the farm is surrounded by eucalyptus trees planted by family patriarch Julio 30-plus years ago. The wood from these trees is used to build virtually all of the wooden structures on the property, including the barns. But no one can explain the farm better than Christian Eiroa himself.
And the whole point of growing tobacco, unless you have real good seed beds, you're not gonna have a good crop. So everything starts off with a seedling, right? So in here, the whole point is they get these cans, and they put the seed inside. The seed looks like grain of coffee, and I don't know if we'll get to see some on the field, but it just looks like ground coffee. And what they'll do is they'll mix it up with some ashes, and they start spreading around. The whole point of the ashes is just to see where they spread the seed. Now, these are 15 days old today. What they're going to start doing now is called rallying. They're going to get with a piece of wire, and they just start making sure there's only one seed per tray. Each one of these things has 96 of them, and then you grow enough. I think it's about, ¿cuántas matas están haciendo por acre? 13,000, 14,000.
Estamos haciendo 11,500.
All right, so each acre has 11,500 plants now. So they're going to do the math. You know, they figure out how many they're going to need, and that's how they prepare it. Reno asked me a good question. No, not all these seedlings are going to make it to the field. Only the best of the best. When they start growing, what you're going to start seeing is, you know, we start cutting these things. They go with a lawnmower. You just chop it from the top, because you want the seedlings when they go in the field to be nice and strong. So if you cut them when they're young, the system forces them to be a lot stronger. And what you're going to find eventually is, I'm pretty sure you guys have seen the picture where they take the little stalk and they pull it out, and all the soil comes out. Because the root system is like a bunch of strings, and they go ahead and they cup when they're able to pull out the whole thing, and then and that's how you transplant it. Now normally you'll transplant it one by one. Other farms you do it manually. My father's got this transplanting. I don't know if we'll see it. Hopefully we'll see it working. Which is these people sit in a chair. They're facing backward, and it's pretty much a revolver. So they put the plant here. As it rotates, it goes down a chute all the way to the ground, and then the machine, it's cutting, it drops inside, and the seedling is placed in the bottom. It's a really, really cool system. It's from the 40s and 50s. I mean, it's not real new technology. We just don't use it in farms because not that many people are crazy like my father to start investing so much in these farms. You know, the farms, you guys are going to see the Bayer signs all over the place. You know, the farms are certified by Bayer Crop Science. That means that all the products that we use are green products. There are a couple products that are blue, only because I think they go green, blue, yellow, and red. Of course, red being the worst, that doesn't go into the system, and they measure it by half-life. I don't know, X amount of years. Blue has the shortest half-life to go back into the system, but the only reason we'll use the blue products is Bayer hasn't developed a green one for it. So we have zero impact on the environment. You'll notice also on the farm, we use the irrigation drip system. Irrigation drip system, you consume a lot less water than you would normally. So we were certified having zero impact on the environment. We're certified as far as the cleanliness and the hygiene. And our factory also, which you guys will notice, we also apply a lot of the same thing. It's better. Here's the better growing practices. Over there, we use their better manufacturing practices. Now, Bayer would not certify the factory because they're a human life company, so they're not going to sit here and endorse a cigar company, so to speak.
Right.
So, but we do, and I think we were talking about a couple of people last night. We have talked about this a lot, but it's just something that doesn't connect with customers. That Bayer Crop Science. Well, the Europeans is big. Europeans really like hearing about that stuff. You people.
You people.
No, the Europeans really like talking about that subject. But here it's not such a big deal. Every tree you see here, every piece of wood. My father's been growing eucalyptus for a long time, so all the wood was produced here. In the sticks in the barns, we produce all the wood here locally also, so as to not affect the environment, and he uses eucalyptus a lot. So all these things, it's about sustainability, and it's something that just became something we were very strict about. Same thing with the irrigation drip system as well. I know Nicaragua, like in the last 4 or 5 years, they really got into the irrigation drip system, and they're talking about it like as the second coming. But that stuff has been around since the Israelis developed that. I think we've had it here since '96, and it's just something that catches on, and it's good to see other people doing it. So you see a lot of different. We do things pretty much the same as everybody else, but we do a couple things differently. You know, we want to make sure that cigars are clean, they're pure. This is something that people put in their mouths, so they have to be clean. You know, matter of fact, when not at the farm, but we go after here, we go to the fermentation rooms. All the water we use is reverse osmosis, because we want to make sure that tobacco is free of minerals also. Now, you can drink from any of that water anywhere. Here in the field, you want those minerals, good or bad. You want the minerals. The plant will take care of whatever it has to take care of, right? And we do keep track of all the minerals that are in tobacco. We just don't know. I don't know how to read it. I don't know what any of that stuff means, to be honest with you. But in the factory also, we'll use reverse osmosis. We want to make sure hygiene, minerals, little things. So when you smoke a cigar, you're really just tasting the cigar itself without any additives, so to speak, right? Not that we want it to, but it's just get rid of all these different minerals and the salts and these different tastes. And I wish I would have thought about it long ago. I would have had cigars before the RO and after the RO, and it really is a big difference. So we just look at the little details they probably don't think about, and we make sure we take care of them. And because at the end, the customer is going to feel it. Whether the customer knows it or not, he or she's going to know that there's a difference in that product. There's a difference in that product. But it does take time, and it's doing everything right on a repetitive basis every day. What you're looking at right now, this is we got 24 acres in this lot. The seedlings are 7 days since they were transplanted, and they spent 42 days in that the seed bed over there, right? So like in 25 more days, that'll get transplanted here. There's the irrigation drip system. What the irrigation drip system does, it drips right next to the plant, so you don't have to use that much water. But another great benefit is if we ever see we want to fertilize, or we see that tobacco is being affected by something, in 10 minutes we can take care of the whole field, versus the old-fashioned way, which it would take days to do the whole field. Because all you do is you put it through the wherever the hell the tanks are. The tanks are on that side. You put the mixture inside the tanks, and the mixture takes care of the whole process. Yeah, I remember one time I was here, and I was riding in the car with my dad. Sometimes he says things that I remember that they're just so funny. And these guys are watering the tobacco plants on top. He goes, "Hey, do you drink water from your head, or you drink water from your mouth?" Water the bottom, stupid. He didn't say stupid, but water the bottom. He meant stupid, but water the bottom. So, I mean, you don't really have to water the top of the plant. Now, this tobacco, and we're going to see different stages of tobacco, which actually makes this trip really cool, because we can see, and that's why we do the trips the first quarter of the year. We're going to see all the different stages. This tobacco is going to start growing fairly. It takes the first few days. It takes a while. If this were the first day, you would see the plants are on the ground. And what you do, you starve it for the first few days. Don't give it enough water. All of a sudden, when the sun starts, the water starts evaporating, the plants start standing up straight, and then they start growing. And then you start watering the plant as required. Today's a pretty sunny day, so they're going to need water today. You want to make sure that the plant's all taken care of. Well, this is all Habano. This is what they're growing now is Habano. Habano, we're looking for body. Great when we get wrappers, but we're really looking. The big shortage that we have as an industry as a whole is fillers. There are no fillers anywhere, so we're really trying to grow fillers. Days like today are awesome for filler. If we're windy, even better. So when the plant starts growing, we'll do something called topping, which we kill the flower. The nature of the tobacco plant is to grow a flower. So if you think the Corona, the crown, right? Corona, we hear that name all the time in our business. So if you figure the flower standing up here and the leaves on top, it looks like a crown, and that's what people call it, the Corona. Now we get rid of that. We don't want that to grow. Also, nature of the plant is to start growing, we'll see on the other field, is to start growing suckers. That means plants that start growing off the side to grow more seed and more flowers. We eliminate all that as well. By topping the plant, the nutrients no longer go to the flower, but the nutrients stay in the leaf. So now you're making the plant stronger, especially on the Habano stuff. If it was Connecticut variety, you want the tobacco to grow as high as you want. You're not going to top it. You're going to keep the flower as long as the tobacco is growing. Matter of fact, and if you do shade growing that's covered, you'll tie strings. I mean, not that many people do it anymore because it's so expensive. But you would tie strings in the plant. If you took the string off, the plant would fall down because it just never really had any strength. And the tobacco plants, and we'll see, it'll be more evident once you get there. Tobacco plants in the middle will be a lot stronger because they have to compete for sunlight. It's amazing the survival instinct of the plant itself. It has it. I don't know if they think, but nature made it so that the plants keep growing. So we top the plant stays smaller, it goes wider, we get bigger leaf, and then we start the priming process, which we start taking off the leaves from the bottom first. And when you take those leaves out, the nutrients keep going to the leaves on top and on top and on top. That's why the higher the priming, the stronger the cigar is going to be as a rule of thumb, right? And then in fermentation, you'll notice it, and those tend to be the more the viso and ligero, the higher you go. So when you start the fermentation process, it's going to take a little longer for that process to happen. But that's really where we get the body from. So Honduras is known for its soil. Honduras is known for its sun. We've been challenged the last 20-something years because of El Niño and La Niña. The weather patterns have been an issue. When do we get the rain? When does the rain not come? So that's been a challenging part for us here in Honduras, and I guess Nicaragua suffers the same thing, right? So main difference between Honduras and Nicaragua and Dominican Republic, Honduras, we have to grow tobacco on our own. There's not that tobacco culture where you have many different dozens or hundreds of different farmers. Got to a point Dominican Republic had 6,000 farmers in the tobacco boom in the 90s. So you could go to have meetings with 10, 15, 20 guys that were growing 1 or 2 acres each, and you can buy a lot of your tobacco that way. So it was a lot less risk for you as a manufacturer as far as financial risk, but then again, you never knew what tobacco you were getting. You didn't know what they grew it with, or they added different substances to make the tobacco bigger and stronger, right? So in Honduras, we had to grow the tobacco all ourselves, and it's fine, especially if somebody like my father, he loves doing it on his own. So I mean, that guy would kill himself before he bought tobacco for anybody else. So he likes growing it on his own. So this is the drip system. This is how it starts, and they'll be here. The drip system will be just until we start priming. By the time we start priming, the plant's already strong enough; it can take care of itself. They'll roll up all the hoses, and then you see this row right here. This is where the tractor will come by. Hopefully, we'll see somebody when the women are priming with the stuff. Women and men, they're priming it. They put it in the baskets, and then from there we'll visit the tobacco barns, and we'll follow tobacco through the whole process. Right? Any questions here so far?
You said these are how old?
These are 7 days old. 7. And they're gonna start pushing, and then tobacco, once it starts picking up speed, they'll grow about 2.5 inches a day. This is Habano, the same plant you saw over there. 50 days old. Right? You're gonna notice a couple things, and I'll show you some plants right now where we take seeds. Sometimes when you get a really good crop, or you get some real strong plants, we bag the flower. We keep the flower, we'll bag it. You bag it so the birds don't come in and different animals eat it up, mostly birds, right? So you get seed from that, and you're able to keep growing that same crop. Now, normally you want to keep also, for example, with Corojo, my father still keeps some of the first generation seed. So if he notices that over the years, or even if we notice over the years that the taste is different, we'll go back to the original one and let it keep progressing. It's happened maybe 2 or 3 times in the last 25 years. So it takes a while for it to happen. It could be whatever, maybe it just didn't respond, or maybe the seed just started degenerating. So you go back to the original well and you do it, and we'll get a jug. He has a jug like this that is good for about 100-something years. So we got plenty of time with that. Now, a couple things you guys will notice. Number one, we've already taken the first priming off from the plant. So they took the plants from down here. Right, take a couple plants from down here. Now all the nutrients are now going up. This right here is the Corona. This is the top leaf. This is the 5th priming. This is the strongest one in the whole plant. So imagine if the flower were here, right? And it would look like a crown. That's why it's called the Corona. And these will be the last leaves that stay on the plant. So think about how much food the plant's getting right now, and all of a sudden all those nutrients only go to 2 leaves. That is where, if this were the Corojo, if this were a Corojo plant, that's where we get the wrappers for the dark from. That's why I can't get that many wrappers for dark. I can't make that many darks. But the dark is made only from these leaves up top. And these leaves receive a lot of punishment. And it's very hard to get wrapper out of those leaves. First of all, it takes like 18 months to ferment that leaf, because when you touch it in the end, if this plant would mature, you would touch it, it feels like leather. And you put it to fermentation, it tastes like leather. So it feels like leather. So it'll be about 16, 18 months for the whole fermentation process to happen. And it takes a while. It's going to ferment with that beautiful brown color. So that's why I can't make that many darks, but it is my favorite cigar for that reason. And it's my father's least favorite cigar for the opposite reason, because he doesn't like strong cigars. So you're also going to see a lot of these little things on the side. These are called suckers. This is what I was telling you guys about, that the plant wants to grow them on the side. You see a lot of the white spots right here. So these suckers were probably here. They break, because what happens is it's a whole new tobacco plant is growing. I'm trying to see if I can find the middle of this one where the seed would start growing. You see, right? That's where the flower would start growing, right in the middle of it. And this one itself will start coming up with suckers too if you let it grow.
So every plant has to be checked regularly?
All the time. For example, look at this one. We just desuckered this one, and see it's growing again right there. Another bud coming out right here.
So every day somebody's walking these roads?
No, you do it once a week, every so often. And there are products that have been developed that you put on the top, and it'll come down and it'll burn the suckers from growing. Right. But it's the plant's nature to do it. Something completely natural. And also, the soil, the plants on the edge are always the smallest ones, because they're not competing for the sunlight. So if you notice here, these plants will be a lot smaller. We compare this one and this one right here, compared to the one next to it, and in the middle they're just a lot bigger.
Right, do they tend to be better in the middle?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
What was your question?
Do they tend to be better?
Okay.
Yeah.
And now what's real pretty, if we came here at 6 o'clock in the morning, the plants would all be standing up like this. Now come 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or noon, the sun's hitting, they tend to go, they tend to get droopy. So always with photography, we always tell people, look, you want to get pictures, you got to go 6 o'clock in the morning. For about 40 to 45 days, and the leaves are going to start changing colors. You already see some right here, like the top of you, Christian. So the process. They're already starting to change colors right here.
A lot of the other parts.
Until they turn completely brown. And then here you're just waiting for the stem itself to get rid of all the green.
It is, but it takes a while.
You know, I had brought some cigars for us to roll, but we're not going to be able to do it. It's just going to be too nasty. I thought it'd be maybe one more week, the cigars, we could actually roll cigars with these. We're not going to be able to work.
How many rows high?
That's a rough
Are these?
That's going to be very green. It hasn't turned to sugar yet.
4, 5, and 6 in the middle.
Huh.
And sometimes they'll have to rotate them after time because they tend to gain more temperature up there. And yeah, I'm building some new barns in a different area. And I changed the type of roof. Instead of going like this, I changed the roof to the oval shape. That way you don't get heat accumulation on top. But these you have to have good ventilation all the time, or else you get fungus.
Yeah.
So the real secret and the real capacity for you to grow is not your tobacco fields, but the barns. And the barns right now, these are costing about $80,000 each to build. Because the amount of wood, imagine, it's really, really expensive. I think we got 53 in this barn. Last year he used them 183 times. So he turned each barn 3 times, a little over 3 times. And then they'll do also the way they string them up. They're put back to back, and they hang them side to side. That way, the reason you put them back to back is you don't want them to spoon each other. If they spoon each other, they'll rot when they're dry. So they're always stem to stem when you hang them up. And then you swing them one side of the pole to the other side of the pole.
What's the time frame from when you start hanging them?
It'll be about 45. Well, it'll be 45 days when we start bringing it down. It depends on the priming. So maybe these will probably be 38, 39 days. And the higher primings will probably be every 45 days. Let's try. But hey, what's today's date? 18th, 19th? 16th. Well, 6 days. Look how fast it's moving. And you see, it's the tip that starts first, and then it goes to the edges, and then the middle is the last part. It starts drying. Pretty cool.
Did you say most of this will be filler?
See all the
No, first priming, it'll be seco. We want to get as much binder as we can out of this. You could use it for wrappers. And fillers, you're going to get fillers for seco fillers. But really, it's 3rd, 4th, 5th priming with a for my taste. My father likes the lower priming. He loves it. That's why we're able to work so well together with the farms. Because he wants the lower primings, I want the higher primings.
It may be hard to tell from watching, but the farm tour makes you sweat a lot, and it can be a bit exhausting. Just when you catch yourself feeling sorry for yourself as the group begs the driver, "Mas frio," asking him to turn the air conditioning up, you look around at all of the workers who are out in the field all day long, and you feel ridiculously spoiled. I will never smoke a cigar again without realizing the hard work required so that I could sit back, relax, and enjoy a nice cigar. After the farm, it was time to go back to the Aladino factory, also owned by the Eiroa family.
Lovely. Alright, so this. Have you smelled this one?
Oh my God. That's a no for me.
Smell this one?
That's ready.
C.L.E.
Alright, so this wrapper here, this is the wrapper we use for the dark. This is the 4th priming, 4th and 5th priming. Oh, sorry. And then when you look at it, it'll start giving us those colors. And what you do is you wrap around your finger, so See what it's gonna look like on a cigar.
Ah.
This is some of the Corojo that we have. En barriles tenés Corojo, amiguito, no?
How many leaves to make a cigar?
Well, you use 3 to 5 different leaves in the filler, then the wrapper and the binder.
Unless you're talking about a 770 or 99.
Basically, 90 by 9 is exactly twice the weight as a 70 by 7.
How many, what do we, like 18 filler leaves in there?
Probably.
Something around there?
Probably.
Is the 70s 9 filler leaves?
That's why it's a $40 stick.
80s like 13?
Oh, we gotta move the camera in because it's a camera that's smelling. It's your POV.
Wait, oh, I'm supposed to. Oh, yeah. Mmm.
All right, so fermentation. This and the sorting room by far is my favorite part of the whole process. Factory, I can take it or leave it. This part is what I love, right? So, all right, so this tobacco first went into bulk March 15th last year. All right, so it's already in what, 10 months? 10 months is going through its process. Right now it's almost ready. And what they do now is they'll put it, you add a little, sometimes at the beginning you add a little moisture. And you have a reaction with the bacteria that changes the color of the leaf, but that reaction also generates heat. Just like you hear about.
A compost plant, like in the U.S., like a compost plant.
Yeah. And they'll generate heat, so what you gotta do is before you burn the leaf, because the water and the heat, they'll stain the leaf, so you have to flip the bulk. This is called bulk, so you flip it, what was on the outside goes on the inside, what was on the top goes on the bottom, and you keep rotating and rotating and rotating until you're done. So if you see the, for example, that one's a little more advanced on that bulk, and we'll go see where they put in the barrels, which what that does is spins it around so all the air gets out and the ammonia gets out, which is what I had you guys smell just now. But what you want is, and you always want moisture, you don't want water, because what the water will do, it'll stain the leaf. So if it's wet, so you want to make sure it's just moisture that you're adding. So if you notice we got the fan system here all over the place.
Is that the little spot?
No, you get streak marks.
Right.
Because you see the natural fold of the leaf? So in that natural fold of the leaf, the water will stain. That's also, you see a lot with Connecticut wrappers and a lot of new rollers, they'll roll a Connecticut wrapper and they use the chaveta too hard. You guys ever had a cigar that has a streak on it? And that's why that is, you have to be very careful with moisture. The tobacco will stain, water will stain. So then anyway, they take the tobacco from here, we'll put it in that one, and then this tobacco is probably already ready. And this is another way that he and I differ. For me, this tobacco is ready right now. It's not ready yet. He wants to do it a couple more times. And for me, this tobacco would have been ready by probably December. Because I don't want to lose that ammonia, that life that you have. Because I like cigars to be a little stronger. Now, some other companies, what they'll do is, everybody has a different taste, every manufacturer has a different taste. Other people won't even wait that long, so, again, I don't know exactly what it would have been like, but maybe some other people that would have stopped in October, November last year. So, I think who was it was telling me they were smoking a cigar, it was kind of bitter, they get that taste back here. That's what happens, right? When the tobacco's not fermented the right way, you get that bitter taste right here. And some people were looking for a lot of body, a lot of strength, and they assumed, it was a shortcut or a trick to let people think that the cigar was actually stronger, when all it was under fermented. So what happens a lot, sometimes you smoke a cigar, you feel a little, something back here, just something not right. And it happens when it's not fully fermented. And, this, I think the limit on this one is probably 107, 108 degrees. If this were broadleaf, 125, 130 degrees when it's in bulk. I like the ones we use for the Colorado. I want not to go over 105 degrees, and I want to do a very, very slow process. Colorado will be the second priming to the fourth priming because I want that reddish color. I want it to be a very, very slow process. So this tobacco is all Habano again. We haven't seen Corojo yet. Those fillers were Corojo. So you guys saw it. I mean, that filler is at a premium right now. You really can't find it. And sometimes you see the strings right here, and there's another card in the front over there. Because sometimes they'll combine primings. This is the third priming. Maybe that's a different priming. And they'll put the strings in the middle just to separate it. Not a very scientific method, but it's good enough. Because at the end, the bulk is here. See how the tobacco's compressed, bulk is here when you make it. Then it's all to start sinking. And they're usually about 1,000, 2,000 pounds each. And then once you do once you start consolidating the tobacco has lost enough weight. Because because tobacco does lose weight through the whole process. You can start putting on tobaccos on top, and you want to take advantage of the space because you have new tobacco coming in. There's always new tobacco coming in, so it's a really, really long process, and it's a continuous, perpetual process, right? This building is dark on purpose. No electricity in here to avoid fires or avoid the risk of a fire. Tobacco is tender by nature, right? So this tobacco storage will be expanding it. Second story also. We'll store the tobacco and it'll sit here for a very long time. It just has to be very clean, very organized. Put the tobacco on top of pallets just to make sure it's protected. It's easy for us to fumigate the tobacco as well. So we'll fumigate tobacco maybe once a year, but we also freeze the cigars before the cigars leave, so we don't have a bug problem. It's the best system. And but since we store tobacco for such a long time, we do have to fumigate it pretty often. Yeah, probably once a year. And once in a while, we'll put the special these cards with the female scent and the glue on it. I'm sure you've seen them. Everybody's seen them. And that, I mean, it doesn't kill the bug. It just lets you know if you have bugs.
No, it's a good idea to put those in your humidor. You can order them on Amazon.
Yeah.
You put them in your humidor or in your locker room. You'll know if you have any beetles because it'll trap the beetles.
Yeah, it's a good alarm.
They're like $2.
Yeah, if you guys have lockers in your store, one thing I always recommend is you tell people, you ask them, especially guys that like to store Cuban cigars in there, and say, look guys, please man, it's okay, you can store whatever you want, but have a freezer, maybe like a meat freezer, and stick the stuff in there for 2 or 3 days. Just keep it frozen there, and then you can put it in your locker, because otherwise, one guy in locker 3 is going to infest everybody else. You know, they got some cigars that didn't take very good care of. Especially the guy that just went to Jamaica and bought some glass top cohibas because they were real, right? Ahí está cogiendo. Lo de palillo. All right, so you don't know exactly what's going on today. What they're doing, they're called stripping. What we do is something called frog stripping. Alright, so these are Corojo fillers that are being stripped right now. This tobacco has gone through a fermentation process to give it a little moisture, and it'll go into bulk once or twice again. We kind of changed the order. I just want to, you know, the bell's going to ring in about 5 minutes. So I just want to catch so you guys see how they do the stripping. We call these frog strips because they look pretty much like frogs, right? Dominicans, they have a different way of frog stripping. They'll strip all the way up here. You know, we like more of the stem, you know, more flavor. It's more typical of Honduras when we do it this way. I think Nicaragua also strips down here. It's really just Dominican that strips all the way down here. So what they'll do is, I mean, really, really hard work. Some ladies will use a thimble. I mean, she just uses her fingernail. None of us, not one single one of us, could strip one leaf right now. We just can't do it. Dude, I don't know how they do it. I've tried so many times. Look how easy she makes it look. Alright, so since we have this here, this is some other new variety my father's growing now. This is Sumatra from Sumatra, right? So what I want you guys to look at is, alright, so what makes it filler, what makes it wrapper? So this is a filler leaf. So on the field itself, somebody probably walked next to this leaf, cracked on the side or had some sort of damage. See that? Oh, this one is cracked right here. Maybe the wind flipped it over. And once you get one of the little stems that cracks, the leaf is just not going to ferment right. So it's not going to be wrapper. That's why when you're walking through the fields, you got to be careful. When you walk by the field and you hear a snap, that leaf is never going to be a wrapper leaf anymore, right? So this will be a filler leaf, and this will be a wrapper leaf. Wrapper leaf is nice and clean. The stems are all small. You can put it up to light. You're not going to have a bunch of holes in it. And you take this one, you put it up. So you got a few holes in it. And these are determinations you make as you're processing tobacco, you're fermenting the tobacco, you start making decisions. This would also be a binder leaf. If it had more stains and it's just not pretty enough, then it would be a binder leaf. That's why sometimes you see some manufacturers, you'll see some cigars, we do it too. When you begin to stretch, sometimes you start seeing wrappers, they're not the cleanest, they got small stains. That's because we went over the sorting project, we're like, oh man, you know what? I don't know how many wrapper leaves I got left, so let's check the sorting again, and let's loosen up the restrictions a little bit. But when you have you have a lot of abundance of tobacco, your wrapper leaves have to be real pretty all the time. But I see brands all the time. We all do it, so it's not just you know, when we see that we're running out of some of the good wrappers, and we start kind of just letting some of the other stuff go. But we do catch a lot of cigars. So let's say we ended up using some leaves that are not the prettiest for wrapper. They'll still get sorted in the factory. You'll see in the factory, we visited the factory this afternoon, you're going to see different times. I think we do 1, 2, 3, we do 4 more sortings. 5 more sortings after this. So if we don't catch it here, we'll catch it another step. You know, from here, tobacco goes where it gets stripped. And we'll see the process over there. That's when we take the stem out of the middle. That tobacco gets stored, then it goes to a production floor where the ladies start sorting the tobacco again. They do it by size, pretty much what this lady's doing right here. All right, so cut it by size, so we'll do that at the factory. Then the cigars were made, and they have the sorting tables. They'll get sorted, the cigars will get sorted at the sorting table. They'll be separated for the boxes. And then one more time again, when the cigars are already being banded, they get sorted again. After being banded, they get sorted another time. So the process keeps going on. So we try to catch as much as we can. It's called, we were talking about it last night, total quality management. We have to check all the steps. And the only way to make sure all the steps are being done right, if your workers are happy and your team knows exactly what they're doing, because from the packing room, the next person that sees those cigars is you guys, and it's going to be your customers and yourself. So people have to be happy, and they have to know what we're doing, and we have to always keep the standards going the whole time, and we have to lead and show them exactly what we're looking for. In the bales, the tobacco will be stored for, some tobacco gets stored for 6 months, other tobacco gets stored for 3 or 4 years. So here all we're doing is they're breaking it out of the bales where the tobacco is kind of stuck together, and they'll loosen it up and they put it in these trays. No matter what factory you visit, they all look the same. I don't know if one copied everybody else or if these Cuban guys are all figured out because everybody uses the same mesh. Everybody uses the same thing, and they're built almost the same size too. I don't know how exactly it worked out, but everybody uses the same thing. So this is basically just to lay out the tobacco. This is before it goes into the factory. So like I said, we'll be jumping back and forth a little bit, because right from here, we're gonna go to the box factory. We just stopped here because it's on the way. Now you guys are gonna see we're doing a lot of construction because we're getting certified to be a free trade zone. So we had to reorganize the way the whole building is, because once we're a free trade zone, in essence, we have to be an enclosed unit where everything has to be here. Nothing can be brought in, nothing can be taken out. As a matter of fact, you guys couldn't even put cigars in your bags and leave the building. According, if we follow the letter.
I've been doing that all day.
Huh?
I've been doing that all day.
Yeah, I know. Once you follow the letter of law, like this passageway, we're gonna have to seal it off also. Really? Which is really makes no sense, man. You can only have one entrance and one exit. Kind of a fire hazard, right? That's what the government's doing. Right now we have a bunch of exits. So we're gonna have to do it because we have to have guards posted at every entrance and every door. You know, it's like that Imperial in what city they in? Not London. What's the other? Bristol.
Yeah.
We went to Bristol and they have the line clearly painted. So I remember I did a tour there years ago. I grabbed a couple cigars from the table, and yeah, because it's typical. You grab a cigar, put it in my pocket. They didn't say anything. The Brits are always very polite. Yeah. Once I'm crossing the line, I said, "Yo, maybe it would be a good idea for you to put it back." I go, "Dude, it's 3 crappy expanded tobacco cigars." No, the line means nothing.
Is that right?
Assuming you might be smoking a cigar right now while watching this film, please appreciate the many hands that have touched your cigar by the time you're able to sit back and enjoy it. Many people on this trip who had been on cigar tours before commented how many people who in the past questioned how expensive cigars were after a tour like this can't believe how affordable they are. After today, that was definitely me. It's extraordinary, the labor, work, and artistry that goes into making every single cigar. After returning from a long hot day, we had a little time to freshen up before going down into our now familiar central gathering area for some much appreciated cold beers and cigars before dinner. This night, they had some special treats lined up for us. Not only did they hire a DJ and have a giant karaoke screen set up, but they also had 8 rollers who work in the factory come over to the hotel so that we could do an exercise where we picked our own binders, wrappers, and fillers, and they would roll our cigars for us. This was an unbelievably cool experience. We also had the privilege of naming our cigar. Dave called his Fire 935. I named mine Lucky Bug. Our host said, smoke it, keep it, exchange it, or share it. Do what you want with those cigars. We did all of them. Smoking my Lucky Bug was an amazing experience for me. I think I finally really understood how Dave felt when he fired up the very first Leaning House cigar, a blend he had picked. This night, Christian talked about how his Cuban-born father, Julio Eiroa, had left Cuba, where him and his brother had been running the family farm after their father died, only to return to Cuba for a short time and then to flee again when they realized who Castro really was. He spoke of how he had fought in the Bay of Pigs invasion and also did a tour in Korea for the United States Army. He spoke about his father's dream to grow Cuban tobacco seed in Honduras and how he basically started the industry here. He spoke about his father's accident in 1977 when he crashed his Cessna, which left him a partial paraplegic. He explained how this one incident was the beginning of his transition from tobacco grower to grower and cigar maker, and how this one accident changed not just his, but the whole family's destiny. From his description of his unbelievably youthful 87-year-old father, who we were privileged enough to meet earlier that day at the factory, he sounds like a man who believes that anything's possible as long as you believe and you work hard. He said his father is a man for whom money means nothing. He lives for his passion, and he truly seems to love his hard work. This is all he needs to be happy. Often the son of a man such as this may live his life in his father's shadow. Well, Christian does not. He admires his father and obviously learned a tremendous amount from him, but he's his own man who has achieved his own successes. In 1995, the Eiroa family acquired Camacho Cigars, and tobacco production was transferred from Nicaragua to Honduras. By 1998, Christian, at only 26 years old, had become president of Caribe Imported Cigars. In 2000, Christian launched Corojo Camacho and took this fantastic cigar, his business school background, marketing skills, and sheer determination, and became a road warrior and made the cigar a wild success. He was so successful, in fact, that he was able to sell the Corojo Camacho to the Davidoff Group in 2008 while maintaining the ownership of the Honduran tobacco fields. Personally, I consider the ability to show vulnerability a strength, so I admired when Christian was open enough to admit that after selling Camacho and spending much needed time with his family, he went through a dark period. He felt that he had money without purpose. Finally, after a few years, he was pulled out of this when his old friend Tom Lazuka and him got together to discuss the possibility of topping the success of the Corojo Camacho. Ultimately, this led to the creation of C.L.E., Eiroa, and Asylum brands. Not only did this bring back his joy, but he also knew in the long run he wanted to make a difference in people's lives. He's actually very humble about this, and it was others who brought up some of his charitable works. He started the C.L.E. Foundation to help improve the lives of others and regularly contributes to Honduran Breast Cancer Foundation. I've always found it interesting to meet a man or woman who has achieved their own successes quite early in life. It can almost come too early. Most of us spend our lives chasing our dreams. So for those who achieve it too early, they sometimes battle with what's next. I feel Christian has figured this out. Perhaps purpose, passion, drive, and giving back and rewarding hard work is hereditary in the Eiroa family. We came to Honduras looking for information about the processes involved in making cigars. On the second night, with the help of Flavia and Raul, I was able to interview my two rollers. They were the perfect pair to interview. Pedro, a seasoned vet of 27 years, and Cindy, still considered a new roller after 3 years. This was one of my favorite parts of the trip, interviewing these two. Here's my brief interview with them. So what's your favorite cigar? Connecticut? Me too. Does he smoke cigars? And if so, how many in a day?
When he's actually working, he cannot, he cannot smoke. But when he's at home, one. So one per day.
Is anybody else in Pedro's family in the cigar industry?
His wife
The
work
company.
together in this C.L.E.
Oh, they work together. Oh, okay.
Okay. They actually do exactly the same job.
Who's better?
Say his wife. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? Because she actually can make more cigars than him.
How long do you remember how long he said he's been doing it?
35.
Always with this company?
He actually worked for a bunch of other companies here in Danli.
Are you going to retire at any point, or you keep working forever?
Until God wants.
Oh, okay. Pedro, anything you want to say to the people in the United States or anywhere else that are smoking your cigars? A message for them?
I hope that they love the cigars that he's making.
Tell him that we really appreciate that it's art.
Ella está diciendo que está apreciando lo que tú estás haciendo un buen trabajo. Entonces, todo el mundo va a apreciar eso.
Muchas gracias. And can you just tell him I love my cigar from last night?
Básicamente ella está diciendo que el puro que preparaste ayer fue fantástico. Entonces ella dice muchas gracias. Muchas gracias. La encanta.
Gracias. So how did you learn to roll cigars?
She learned in C.L.E.
How many years?
June 2021.
Does she like rolling cigars?
And does she want to do anything else?
No, a mí me gusta lo que hago, solo que a mí me gustaría aprender a
She likes what she do.
si Dios quiere.
She wants to learn more
Okay.
what he's doing. So
Oh,
she's
okay.
gonna learn more to do what he's doing.
Oh, okay. At the factory, do newer rollers get mentored by people that have done it such a long time?
She answered there is the supervisor, Joel.
Anybody else in your family or friends work there?
Por parte de mi papá,
So from her mom's side, everyone, and from her father's side, 3 people.
Okay.
de tu papá, 3 personas. Sí, de mi mamá, todos.
How would it make her feel to see somebody in the United States smoking and enjoying her cigar? If she could actually see that.
Sería un honor para mí, porque
That's her mission, you know, to hope that they can enjoy the cigar that she actually.
That's beautiful. And do you smoke cigars?
nunca.
No?
She never tried.
Never tried.
We went on a journey to discover the art of cigar making, but we discovered so much more. We discovered a rich history to C.L.E., starting with his dad and his dream. And it landed us here on this tour, which was so magical. Being hosted by Christian and speaking with him at length was a privilege. He talked about his need for purpose and his desire to make a difference in people's lives. He talked about the importance of wanting to be proud of his own sons and wanting them to be proud of him as he's proud of his father. He wants them to have the same passion and drive that his father, his late uncle, his brother, and himself all share. Yes, we learned about the process of making cigars, but when you're there in person, you can feel the passion, the hard work that goes into every single cigar. Maybe that passion carries into the cigar. Maybe cigar smoking is not just all about flavors and notes, but about the people who make them, who share them with friends, and about how they bring strangers together. And like all products which fall into what I like to call the connoisseur collective, like wine, scotch, cigars, bourbons, they seem to share something with traditional art. In traditional art, taste is subjective, and some are experts more than others. But cigars are not meant to be hung on a wall. They're meant to be smoked and enjoyed. Ultimately, the art is in the enjoyment. Perhaps that's what drives the 100+ people whose hands have touched the tobacco you're smoking right now. From their many hands to yours, they're motivated by a love of cigar making. They are not just making cigars, they are all trying to make you fall in love. We went to Honduras and we discovered a love story.
Hope to see you guys soon. I'll go up to Pittsburgh pretty soon, see you guys.